first reading is from Genesis chapter 45, verses 3 to 11, and verse 15. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers could not answer him, so dismayed were they at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "Come closer to me." And they came closer. He said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are 5 more years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and ruler over all. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, 'Thus says your son Joseph, God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, do not delay. You shall settle in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you and your children and your children's children, as well as your flocks, your herds, and all that you have. I will provide for you there, since there are 5 more years of famine to come, so that you and your household and all that you have will not come to poverty.' And he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them, and after that his brothers talked with him."
Amen. I've always liked the story of Joseph. It's probably one of my favorite stories in the Bible. And Joseph was what we used to call a mama's boy. He was Rachel's favorite and Jacob's. And some of us know what it's like to have a sibling that is mom or dad's favorite, yeah? My sisters tell me that I was spoiled. I question that. They had to eat their liver and lima beans, and they tell me I got to eat peanut butter sandwiches, which is why they decided to get rid of me early in my life. Yeah, they did. It's true. By feeding me stones. But I fooled them. No one likes a mama's boy, or if you want to be inclusive, a mama's girl. But Joseph also had another thing going against him. He was a dreamer. So big, in fact, his dreams put him at odds with not only his 11 brothers, but with his father, Jacob, as well. And in one of those dreams, his entire family bowed down to him. And he told that to his brothers. Big mistake. It did not go over very well. In fact, it proved to be too much for the jealous brothers, even for the father whose favorite he is. Jealousy. Now, I have never seriously thought of murdering my sisters, even at the age of 5. But these boys did. And they had it all planned out. They said, when he shows up in the sheep pasture, we'll kill him. And then we'll throw him into a pit and tell Dad that a wild animal ate him. And as one brother said, and we shall see what becomes of his dreams. Now, Reuben, he was a little bit more merciful. And they agreed to throw Joseph in a pit, and that way they could pretend he had been killed by a goat getting rid of him without shedding his blood or by a wild animal. And secretly hoping to save Joseph's life, Reuben found the pit empty when he returned to retrieve him. And Judah, the fourth eldest, proposed they could make some money by selling them to the Ishmaelites, and unknown to the brothers, the Ishmaelites later sold Joseph to the Egyptians into a slavery, and the story goes on and on. I don't know about you, but I love that story. It's a great story, maybe because it's like a soap opera. It's full of betrayal, intrigue, lies, jealousy, and murder. Just what a 6-year-old boy in Sunday school would love. And I even got to play Joseph once because I was the only kid in Sunday school who had a multicolored bathrobe. The coat of many colors. So let's fast forward, and Joseph's dreams come true. He's now the second only to Pharaoh himself. The path to this was not an easy one. False accusations in response to his repeated rejection of Potiphar's wife, sexual advantage put him in prison, and favor with the wardens put him in charge of the prisoners, and connectively interpreting the dreams of a baker and a cupbearer moved him from prison to the palace. His wisdom interpreting Pharaoh's dreams and his gift for administration made Egypt the breadbasket of the world during a 7-year famine. What a life! How could anyone, Joseph, his brothers, or his fathers, have known that this twist of events would be a blessing in the long run? Not only for Joseph, but for all of his family. How could they have known that one day all of Egypt would bow to him in search of food? How would they have known that his family, divided by jealousy and envy, would be united once again? You know, you'll be glad to know that Joseph was from a dysfunctional family. Yeah, they were even around then. His dad, Jacob, for example, at the encouragement of his mother, Rebekah, stole his birthright from his older brother, Esau. So there's a soap opera continues: animosity, jealousy, theft. But you know, if anything sticks out for me in this story, is that it's a story of reconciliation. And you know, folks, there's a lot of animosity in our world right now, and we read about it every day. But reconciliation is front and center in the whole drama of Joseph's life. First, let me say something about forgiveness and reconciliation. In the kingdom of God, forgiveness and reconciliation is not an option. In the kingdom life is not like a buffet restaurant where we get to choose what we like or what we don't like. Forgiveness for the people of Jesus is not something we pick or choose. It's front and center. If you don't believe me, listen to what Jesus said. But I say to you, love your enemies, be good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. If you love those only who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love your enemies, do good and lend, and expect nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. God's forgiveness, reconciliation of us through the death on the cross is front and center of our faith. Reconciliation, there's that word again. So if God has forgiven us, if God has reconciled us, then what? Be reconciled to one another. I read stories about parents who abuse children. And when something like that happens to me, when it happens to a kid, my heart breaks. And believe me, I don't have any wholesome thoughts about the mom or dad who did it. What am I to do? Is my anger justified? You bet. But you see, ultimately, my anger affects just me just as much as it affects others. Someone said, if you don't heal what hurt you, you'll bleed on people who didn't cut you. What would Jesus have us know about reconciliation, both for our personal and corporate life? Firstly, Jesus wants us to know that reconciliation is possible even in the worst circumstances. Although his brothers wronged him, Joseph, after a bit of making their lives miserable, sought reconciliation with them. No matter what happened in the past, Joseph and his brothers know that ultimately relationships are primary. Joseph chose not to let the past stand in the way of reconciliation. But I'm right. I tell myself that when I get into an issue. I'm right. But I have to ask myself, is being right so important all the time? The thing is, I value my family. I value relationships with my family. People matter. Not our ideology, not our politics, or whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong. People matter. Joseph's brothers did some unforgivable things. And he had every right to be furious in being second in command. He could have said, off with their heads. But he didn't. Because he understood God's mind. That God meant it for good, Joseph said. And by the grace of Jesus, yes, real reconciliation is possible, even in the worst possible circumstances. So that's the first thing about reconciliation. Second thing, reconciliation requires facing and telling the truth no matter how difficult or painful it may be. Joseph said to his brothers, come close to me, and they came close to him. He said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life. Talking with a friend the other day, and I sensed something was wrong, like they were mad at me, so I said, are you okay? And his response was, yeah, I'm okay. Well, he finally fessed up. He wasn't okay. Another friend asked me, and I asked another friend, is there something wrong? And he said to me, well, you should know. Really? I don't know what I did. What's that about? There's not a lot of speaking truth. In today's world, this is a part of what that people often miss. They want reconciliation without the work of facing and dealing with the truth about the past, the truth about the present, and the truth about the future. Now, I should tell you this, that speaking the truth in love is like the difference between a surgeon's fine scalpel designed to open with precision and care, which brings healing, yes, versus a knife which it's jagged and it destroys. Truth of our relationship, truth and reconciliation with First Nations, there can be no healing, no moving forward until the wounds of the past and the effect on the present and future are openly and honestly and truthfully addressed. Jesus put it best, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Why stay stuck in the past when the truth will set you free? Thirdly, Joseph does his part to make things right. He sends us for his father, promising that he will provide for the entire family. Reconciliation involves action, not just words. It's not just, I'm sorry. Joseph did his part, taking care of his family. The brothers did their part, acknowledging that they had mistreated Joseph and honoring Joseph's request to bring the family, including their father Jacob, to live in Egypt. Joseph did his part to make things right. And that's what we need to do too. And lastly, Joseph recognized God's hand in his life. You know, God's not a big character in Joseph's story. Yet Joseph recognizes God's role in his life when explaining to his family all that had happened to him. And he said in chapter 50, verse 20, he said to his brothers, "As of you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today." Joseph understood that through all those circumstances in his life, God meant it for good. Good and bad. God meant it for good. He understands that everything that happened brought him to the moment of reconciliation with his family and made it possible for him to bless many, including his family, Egypt's, and nations and beyond. We are living in a world that wants to build walls. Not just physical walls, but walls between people. Spiritual walls. Jesus came to tear those walls down. Those walls between God and us, and those walls between people.